there, Servum17 once again. This is my Uncharted 4 Crushing Difficulty video walkthrough. This is Chapter 10, The 12 Towers. We are in the truck and in Madagascar, and this is probably one of my favourite levels in the game. This is hands down one of the most stunning looking environments I've ever played in any game. Like, it's just... The environmental artists at Naughty Dog are on such a higher tier than everybody else, it's not even funny. And studios always have certain specialties, you know, things that they do well, things that they're known for. You've got people like Platinum, who are known for making, you know, very responsive, deep, yet simple to access at first combat systems in games. You've got people like Konami that are great at fucking creative people and ruining Metal Gear Solid 5. You have people like Bungie, who were famous for skyboxes. They had some of the most dynamically beautiful skyboxes ever. And then you've got Naughty Dog that just... Everything they do is great. Like, visually, artistically, it's just... There's nothing that looks as good as this game. Like, even shit on PC at ridiculous spec still doesn't look as good as this game, because a lot of this is art. Art to bolster hardware that isn't as high as it could be. Like, can you imagine how good this would look on a high-end PC? If they were able to really push all the settings? It'd probably be the most beautiful game ever made. And it manages to still be that on a console, which is why it's so head and shoulders above everything else. And there's so much tech that's happening here that's kind of crazy, where the Jeep gets dirty and then you drive through water and it cleans it, and all kinds of just details that are completely and utterly unnecessary. But they're there anyway, and that's the true beauty of it. It's going the extra mile when it's not really requested of you. You know, when people think Uncharted, they think kind of action-y, adventure-y, Indiana Jones kind of game. They don't think mud tech or cleaning tech and stuff like that, but this game has just got it in spades in so many ways. And the most exciting thing about Uncharted ending, which I know a lot of people are sad, but just be happy that it went out the way it did, where it, you know, it's not going to shuffle its way out on a Zimmer frame wishing that it was half the series it used to be. It's going to go out with dignity and style and guns blazing. And now Naughty Dog get to go and do something new, and a lot of people are talking about Last of Us 2, which if it happens, it'll be amazing, because I think Last of Us 2 could be a great idea. I think that they set such a tone and made such an impactful game that whatever they choose to do now, just because of the spirit of Naughty Dog, which is to do something different and to constantly keep challenging their audience and themselves, Last of Us 2 will probably be one of the best games ever made. But at the same time, I want something different. I want them to do something they've never done before. I want them to go a completely different way. And I think that could be fantastic. Because if you think about it, they did platformers for a long time, and then they moved towards action and storytelling and everything else with the Uncharted series. They could go completely off the map. Imagine if they made a first-person shooter. Or imagine if they tried to make a combat game, like a third-person character action game or something. Just taking everything they do well and moving into a genre that they've not attempted yet and doing their own thing with it. Because this has got combat elements. Crash Bandicoot had combat elements, so did the Jack series. You know, they've got an understanding of how to make things. They could literally make anything, and what they choose to do next is probably the most exciting prospect for Sony's systems ever, if they continue to be exclusive and use the PlayStation better than anybody else does. I think it's incredibly exciting times to be looking to see what they do next. And how many developers can you say that about? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not excited about to see what fucking Epic does next, because Epic aren't doing shit anymore. They've got out of gaming and they're in like the hardware stuff, aren't they? Maybe they'll be backing some Oculus stuff. I'm not excited to see what the old Konami are going to do now that Hideo Kojima's left and they're all obsessed with pachinko bullshit. Like, there's barely any devs that I'm even remotely excited to see what they're going to do next with all this new technology and all this new opportunity. The one that is a big one for me is Platinum, and I'm really excited to see what happens with Scalebound, because people seem to forget that Platinum is not just one single team. Platinum's a bunch of small teams, But the Big Daddy team has been working on a game for a few years now. So everybody's talking, you know, about Transformers was this short thing that had great combat, but, you know, there weren't much to it. Legend of Korra with a short thing with decent combat, but it weren't much to it. Turtles will be the same, like, Platinum are making all these licensed games, and then they're not making proper full games, and everyone's criticising for this, thinking that that's just what Platinum is, and it's not, guys. That's just other teams inside of Platinum getting these jobs from Activision, and Platinum as a company are trying to expand. Watch this. I couldn't reverse. I couldn't get off the bush. That bush is the toughest dude in this game. I love these moments, though. It's essentially car traversal, and they're way, way, way more fun than I thought they were going to be. I usually really do not like vehicle sections, but this is probably my favourite vehicle section in any game, because it's just beautiful to look at, it's fun, and it feels like there's multiple paths. Like, I don't think I came the same way on this recording as I did my first time. And admittedly, that's because I'm taking some wrong turns here, but the game allows you to take some wrong turns and still get to where you need to be, which is a really, really cool thing, I think. As I was saying, though, guys, people are judging Platinum based on these 8-month dev cycles of these smaller teams that have got directors that are new to directing and teams that are not as expertise as some of the other ones. And they're judging the entire company based on that, when what you should be judging is Scalebound when it comes out, because not only is Scalebound being directed by Hideki Kamiya, who is one of the 4 founders of Platinum and one of the most influential game developers there's ever been, but he's also using his team, which is, if you want to be, you know, kind of facetious in that way, you could call them the A-team, because they are the people who made all the better Platinum games, which look, play, and feel like games that have been developed to be fully fledged games. Like, when you're playing Wonderful 101, it doesn't feel like Transformers in its depth, in its length. It feels like a fully fledged game, and it is, because that's the last game that team worked on, and Scalebound is the next. And unfortunately, Scalebound's not coming out until 2017, but you know when it does come out, it's going to have been ingested and gestated for long enough that it's going to be a wonderful game. And I am so excited for that, just like I'm excited for what Naughty Dog do next. And I'm not really excited for much other things. Like, I'm really excited to see what FromSoft does now that they've said that Souls is going to be put to bed for a while. Because I want Hidetaki Miyazaki is his name. I want him to do the next great thing. I want him to continue to innovate and make the next great series. And I'm not really bothered about Armored Core, so it'll break my heart if it's that. And I'm not really bothered about Ace Combat or any of that shit, even if they do those games. I want something new. And of course, because I want, I get. That's how it works, right, guys? But this sequence here is the stealth section I mentioned, where I stealthed all of it across the bridge, and then I realised that I needed the car. And then when you try and take the car there's a trap to stop you from getting past this without fighting. So when I came here for the recording, I decided to stealth a couple people, get rid of some of the more dangerous foes, and then kill the rest with guns. And I had a really cool path here. I'm going to thin out some of the herd, and then we're going to climb the tower, and we're going to thin out the people with the rocket launchers. And I thought, once I've killed those, there'll be no threat, right? But it turns out that they're like fucking rats. There's about 20 dudes in this encounter, and a bunch of them you just can't see. And they're like woodlice. You pick a brick up and they're everywhere. It's really weird. And once again, there may be a way to do this 100% stealth and never engaging anybody, but I'm just not the guy to find that shit. I really am not. Because me and Uncharted 4, unfortunately, don't get on. The game is definitely growing on me now that I've played it a second time, but I still there's something about it that I don't enjoy when it comes to the fighting. And it's such a bizarre feeling, guys, because I know the game is great. I know a lot of people are having a ton of fun with it, but to me, it feels really shallow. And I couldn't tell you why in a lot of ways. I guess I'm just kind of fucked up. But this is weird, this. There's a whole bunch of guys in this area, but you can't seem to get to them in in a really effective way. I wanted to climb and drop on people and do, you know, crazy shit like that, but in the end, I end up just charging at this dude because there doesn't seem to be any fancier way of doing it. You could climb up the wall and climb out, maybe, but I was just like, can I just walk around and grab him? I think you might be able to climb up that bit there and go through that gap, but you most certainly can't seem to get this way unless you drop down and shimmy, and if you shimmy, those guys over there can probably see you, so I was looking at that as a real bad idea. And instead, there's those two guys down there that are moving back towards us. God, this is a beautiful game. And there's a dude above me. Just then I heard him. That's what I was looking at. So we know there's two guys in this tower. There's a guy to my left who needs to die because he has a rocket launcher. Just casually stood there with an RPG. I have no idea how he didn't see me. Somebody, I think they heard him cry out, so he's a little bit aware, but not completely alert, and we're going to try climbing now. And this is one of those moments where it's really easy to climb the thing you don't want to climb, and then Nate goes into that stubborn mode of not climbing what you want him to do. Like right now, I'm trying to go up, and he's doing those stupid push-up things. Like, what are you doing, Nate? Go up, you tit. Up, dude. They're going to see you climb up. And then finally, he goes around the side, after I've twiddled the analog like some elongated cow nipple, and finally we're where we need to be. So we can climb up to this bit, and I think this is where the next dude is, yeah. Watch this guy's animation here. Watch this. How dodgy did that look? He's weird, him. Really weird. And now I see a sniper, so I'm thinking, there must be, what, 5 dudes left? There's one there, there's 2 there. We've got this. I'll just put the sniper on, I'll do a couple shots, we'll clean it up, they never even knew we were here. And guess what? It goes horribly bad. So I snipe him. I know there's one more dude over here somewhere, but I can't fucking see. There he is, just down there. And then now you're going to see people come out of nowhere, and they're going to introduce you to the concept of popping the shoulder out of the joint with the grenade throws they're about to chuck up here. So he has a grenade launcher, I think, a China Lake dude. So you want to make sure he gets killed. There was another guy down there somewhere, he's just there. He's climbing up, bless him. Put him down, see you later. But do you see how many I've killed? It's like, where the fuck is everybody else? But there's dudes everywhere, shooting at me. I was really disappointed in this, because I thought I'd done a really cool pattern, and it was going to be over dead quick, and I could stroll away all cool. And then they just, look at them. They're everywhere. I'm taking shots, there's people getting in 45 positions, and it turns into a bloody war zone. Good old Sam's laying down covering fire, there's a quick headshot. Another guy there in cover, can't quite clip him. And a magic grenade! One of many to come. Like, how can you throw a grenade that high? You cheaters! Stop it! There's another fella there. Putting a couple of shots down range at him. See you later, pal. But does anybody else see this many people when we started this? Look at them! Oh, and I try and throw a grenade, and it won't even let you look to see where the reticle is because of how it's designed. And as you can see, it was a perfect grenade, landed exactly where I wanted it to land. Expert, top-tier play there. Yeah, just... This pretty much some... Oh, here we go, magic grenade, I'm nearly dead, I should be dead. How I didn't die then, I couldn't tell you. But this is... This fight right here sums up the combat in this game. It really does. It's just perfect. A perfect representation of the shit that happens in this game. Like, it started off beautifully smooth, a really nice pattern of choking dudes, getting rid of the threats, pick up the sniper rifle, kill the last few dudes you can see, and then it turns out there's 50 dudes waiting in a locker room somewhere, and the moment you fire, they're all like, we're on, it's time to be seen. God damn it. And then, of course, magic grenades. Zeus just drops them in. I think that's it. How fucking dumb was that, though? Ridiculously dumb. So ridiculous. But, you know, there's a measure of fun there. There's some fun to that one. As I drop down. And now I'm going to spend a rather large amount of time running around picking up guns, because this is incredibly important to have the equipment that I'm going to show you to follow some of my strategies, which generally always turns out to be the Bartok Magnum with the China Lake grenade launcher. That is the two things that I resonate towards for some reason. It's just The Raffica's pretty good, but my problem with the Raffica is it's a triple burst pistol, and it burns ammo because you never have that much ammo with it. It's really good and it's a good choice, but I would rather have a para with more bullets in it than any other gun. That to me is just smarter, because the para you can get headshots with, and it's only one bullet wasted, even though it can be tricky to do when everything's, you know, so dangerous and so quick and damaging. But it's still, I look at the para as, if you have 40 pistol bullets over 16 triple burst bullets, you're going to stand a better chance of controlling fights. And there's one fight in this game where I really, really worry about ammunition, and it's the elevator fight when the car is being raised, because there's a lot of sequences there where you're hanging and you need a good pistol, because the game for some reason limits your ability to use any other guns when you're hanging, and I really wish it didn't. I understand why, because there's a measure of realism there. You can't use an AK with one hand, yet that's exactly what he does when he swings, you know. So it's there's gaming conceits here that are happening, and it's a balance so that you can't just beat every situation by clinging off a lip and shooting them that way, because it's such an effective technique. And I'm quite looking forward to going back on Uncharted 1 and Uncharted 3 brutal stuff, because the way that I play this game is different to the way I play those other games, and I'm wondering if some of the skills and some of the scenarios in this are going to change my mentality to how I approach those other sequences. Like, I would have probably never thought to hang off a ledge and use that for cover for any kind of extended period of time in those older games, because it just isn't warranted for a lot of it. Some of it might have been, like I can think there's a section in Uncharted 3 where you're clinging on a surface, aren't you, climbing up. I think it's Abducted once you pass those pirates, and there's a lot of verticality to that mission, and I think you did a lot of it then, but for the most, I would have just used cover / blind fire / using the third-person camera technique. Whereas in this game, the cover is often not there. The camera technique is going to get you killed, so you have to get creative with using lips and things and ledges and doing stuff that you perhaps wouldn't normally do. So in one way, I think they were very successful in forcing the player to adapt a different playstyle than you normally would in an Uncharted. I think they had a lot of success with that. But at the moment I have 120 AK bullets, I have a fully stocked pistol, and I have 4 grenades, so I think we're doing okay. I'm going to go back this way to the car, and then we're going to pull down the bridge with the winch. And I love that, when you get back to the car, and it does that pre-animated everybody back in the car so you're not waiting for people. Such a clever touch, speeds up everything. But if you're wondering what happens when you try and skip this fight, and everyone's tried, when you get to the bridge, it's going to break. Once it's broken, you need to manually use the winch to put it around the bottom part of this structure, which is kind of... I think it's a bit shit, personally. I really do. I don't know. I'm conflicted. Like, I think the firefight here is pretty interesting on a base level. And I think the fact that they've made it so you can't skip it is an interesting choice as well. But there's a part of me, like, I got across here without being seen. It wasn't in the car, of course, which is what you needed, but just this illusion of choice, when really there is no choice, is something that I really don't like. Also in this section there are these cairns. Cairns, I think they're called. It's a collection of stones that is made into like a headstone. There's one there, just there, I just passed it. I think it's in respect to the dead, it's some kind of effigy. You can break them, and I think there are 16 to break, and it gets you a trophy. Of course, I've missed a ton of them, and I'm not going to be breaking them, but you can if you want to. So there's another really, really nice vista here. And you can see the shoreline dudes up there. And speaking of shoreline, I think that this game, the biggest failing of the game as far as narrative, for me personally, is that there's no real villain. For me, in my eyes anyway. And you might be thinking, well, Chris, there's both Nadine as a threat in the game, there's that Rafe guy who's a threat in the game, who's kind of the unhinged rich guy who gets the crazy Nicolas Cage hair at the end. And they are antagonists, and they are meant to be antagonists. And at the beginning, when we're still believing the Alcazar bullshit, there's 3 antagonists, which I thought was going to be great, because I personally thought that Alcazar was going to come in the end and mess everything up and be that, you know, that peril before the final act, before the resolution. And then, of course, we get a bit more truths and answers, and it turns out Alcazar's already bloody dead and he's a fairy tale. And then the only real threat we've got is Nadine, who... Nadine isn't really a threat because she's just trying to fulfill her contract with the rich kid. And even her towards the end is realising that it's more hassle than it's worth. So she's not really against you. She's just trying to support her client in the way that she's been taught to do as a professional. And then you have Rafe, who's just this fucking stupid, unhinged, like, seemingly motiveless dude who doesn't need money, wants this bizarre notion of earning this discovery, even though he doesn't really care how he does it, and he didn't do any of it himself. And he's like, I don't know. I like a ridiculous villain in my ridiculous adventure stories. I like to have somebody who has some kind of James Bond disfigurement, ridiculous, super over-the-top villain, and then I like to have a big showdown with the villain at the end that is as ridiculous as the villain himself. And in most of the Uncharted, it's kind of that way, isn't it? You've got the... I forget the fucking name of that guy who's the baddie in the second one. The bald dude with the funny eye, and then you're shooting him in that crazy jungle of ambrosia resin stuff. You take him on, and it's kind of... He's an over-the-top, violent, kind of bold, bad guy. He just needs a cat, and then he's perfect. Then you have the Talbot dude and the woman. The woman's like super Helen Mirren, menacing, and then Talbot's kind of her butler dude who's kind of polite and also a murderer, and you have that crazy sword fight with him at the end, and it's all cool and what have you. And then in this, it just kind of doesn't have that thing I was hoping for. I was really hoping for an Alcazar fight and have it be something super ridiculous with him at the end. Like, you've both got hair trimmers and you're trying to cut each other's hair. Something dumb. And in the end, there's a fancy and interesting fight with somebody, which is kind of random, but still cool. But it's up against somebody who I don't really feel like you ever needed to fight him. I feel like he's just an idiot. He's just an idiot who kind of lost it by his obsession with searching for this Avery treasure. And that's it. You know, I don't feel like it was some big, like, overcoming of adversity and what have you. So to me, I feel like this game just doesn't have a good villain. And I like good villains, and even games that I don't think are that great, that people love, like Far Cry stuff, like Far Cry 4, which is essentially Far Cry 3, just with a different bloom effect. That has a great villain, and you never really do much with these villains in those games, and they're never really that interesting to kill. But before you get to that point, it's always something over the top and ridiculous, and there's generally, you know, a couple of moments where you're like, these are fucking really cool dudes. And I like that idea. I like the idea of, like, look at this game. Between these main characters, they have great writing. It's witty, it's fast, it's dynamic, it's organic, and it feels right. Where's the antithesis of this? Where's the villains that get this same kind of special treatment as they're all VIPs? It just isn't really there. And it makes me wonder what they could have done to have a better presence in there. Like, I think Nadine could have been used a lot more than she was, and I think she could have legitimately been a threat. But instead, I think they humanized her character a little bit too much, and they made it more about the psychology of her choices rather than the brutality of her actions. And I think it's an interesting choice, just not the one I perhaps would have taken. Because I like me some ridiculous villains. Like, where was the dude with a hook for a hand, you know, and a stupid accent? Where was the British guy who's always the bad guy? Where was that guy? But this is a gunfight, so...
You two just relax.
There's going to be 2 trucks that pull up here, and I'm almost certain there's a way to kill everybody with grenades. But I chuck 2 pretty decent grenades and I don't kill everybody. So maybe I have to chuck a few more, I don't know. But this is one of the best firefights in the game, I think. This is a firefight where you can be creative, you can be mobile, and you're not going to be immediately fucked for doing it. So, there was the two grenades. There's those two guys getting sprayed down. I'll start shooting up. Look how fast they climb stuff, these enemies. It's crazy. They're faster than we are. And we're Nathan Drake, the man with unbreakable fingers. But you'll notice I'm going to use the Raffica from here, and I'm going to use this ledge as cover. There's the grenade. Drop down to the lower bit, and then hop back up, and you're perfectly safe. The only problem here is there are people trying to flank on our right. They always do this every single time. So there's going to come a point where we're going to start getting shot from behind, and it's not safe. So, I didn't mean to fall down then, if you're wondering. I end up trying to climb up this bit, and Nate will not climb this. But you'll notice there's another truck coming now. I blow up that barrel, and I'm about to try and get a couple spawn nades on these guys that way, but I don't think it works so well because they've already moved in. Here they come now. So, pretty dangerous spot to be in, but if you stay mobile and you get back up here, you can get some more safety. So, in cover, there's a dude just there. Spray him down with the Raffica. The Raffica's really good for getting those clutch kills when you need them. I don't know what that guy was doing, but spray him down anyway. And now there's just the stragglers. There's also going to be a grenade dude who you do not want to mess with. The grenade launcher person is probably the most dangerous enemy in the game because he's got unlimited grenades and they don't bounce traditionally. They kind of wobble and stick to things. It's very strange. This was dangerous. Look at that. Trust your cover. The only reason I think I could do that then is because I wasn't aiming. If I'd have started aiming, it would have made my hitbox wonky and they would have been able to hit me. But the fact I just committed to sitting there like a tit was the thing that kept me alive. And made this fight a little bit more exciting than it could have been, because I'm not just hugging a wall or sat behind a chest-high piece of concrete for the entire duration. I'm actually getting in there and trying to work it my own way. But I really do like this particular spot up here, this height advantage. It makes you exposed, but it also enables you to get away with murder in a lot of ways. And I'm going to be using this crank here as cover to try and eke around to shoot those guys. And you'll notice, for some reason, they have trouble seeing me. They're too busy trying to throw perfect grenades, which ends up biting them in the bum just then, as I spray that guy down. But my gun's not as accurate as his. And then there's just that fella there. So now, I think it's just the grenade guy, wherever he is. Oh no, we're done. That was it. So now, this is important, folks. There's going to be a guy who drops a Bartok here. There's also going to be that Bartok that I didn't pick up over there on that tower. And there's going to be the guy we killed with the China Lake. You need to pick up the Magnum, and you need to pick up the China Lake. These are two weapons that are going to make the next firefight incredibly simple. Because we can spawn kill the two heavies, and then from there we can thin people out with the Magnum. And then when the next bunch of heavies come, you've got grenades for them. So this is one of the... Is it Baroque, that? I call it Bartok for some reason. Probably selective dyslexia. It might be something else. It might be Baroque. But I'm sure we'll pick it up again. But anyway, you know what I mean. The gold Magnum thing with the triangle reticle. That's the one you want. All the guns in this game have got stupid names because none of them are traditional gun names except stuff like that. Like the FAL or the FAL is an acronym for like Fibre Nationale... something shooting gun thing. Like the FAL is an actual human gun. The AK is an actual human gun. Everything else, I don't know. Some of it looks a bit dodgy. Like that Fossa thing, that little clob, whatever it's called. A very strange gun. There's that AR-1, is it like 10XO or something daft? The one that the heavies use, that's a gold assault rifle. That always seems really good until you get it and then they've given you like 7 bullets. Hate that bullshit. But there's a China Lake. China Lake is a real name of a gun as well. Maybe all the gun names on this are real. I just don't know my derivatives and my Chinese knockoffs. Who knows? I'm sure somebody more like gun oriented than me will know this. Let's go to internet firearm database or whatever it's called and check out Uncharted 4. See what all these guns are actually called. But also you want to make sure that you have all your grenades too. 4 grenades, China Lake, Magnum. If you've done that, we can continue. And you might be thinking, well, what if I don't have the gear that you're using? Will I still be able to follow your strategy? And the answer is you can, but it's going to be trickier. because I'm going to be relying on splash damage to get 2 people at once, and it's tricky to do that with guns that don't have splash. So hopefully you're able to imitate what I'm doing here, and if you can't, you can get creative, because there are ways to win, guys. You can beat all these situations with worse gear than the ones I'm using. You might not like the China Lake, you might not like the Magnum very much, you might be a fan of just using, you know, traditional pistol and assault rifle stuff, and that's awesome. There's a lot of snipers here, there's a lot of different guns here. I'm just double checking everything before we continue and then getting back in the Jeep. I have full faith that people can do things in all kinds of ways in these games, because when you go on YouTube and you search for Uncharted, you can see people doing stuff in all kinds of different ways, and it's one of the cooler aspects of games, and the ability to watch them the way that we consume them these days thanks to streaming sites and places like YouTube, is you get to see a whole bunch of different ways of playing, plays that you've never thought to do, and strategies that never even occurred. And I think that's one of the greatest aspects of gaming as a culture and as a community, is being able to share the way you did it with people and seeing how they did it. And sure, you get the backseat gaming people that are annoying, you get the elitist people who think they did it the best and they want to tell everybody how good they are and how much better than everyone else they are and how your version sucked and theirs is the best. But you're gonna get that because it's human nature, you know. It's just like, what is it, Helga said in Outlaw Star, where people are like stars. There are those that shine brightly, and there are those that are dim. And it's very true. As we slide down this embankment, and we get ready to do the winch. Which, nothing could go wrong, right guys? It's an Uncharted game. That conspicuously placed boulder, eh? I see what you've done. Oh no! Damn your inevitable betrayal! Another question here. Why did this thing not have any seatbelts, and why did they not wear them? Because there's no way Nate would have fallen out here if his seatbelt had been, you know, done. So maybe this is kind of a safety advert they didn't even realise they were making. But if you think about it too, seatbelts are great, they're also prisons. Because for every opportunity in a game such as this where a seatbelt would have saved you, it would have probably trapped you in and got you killed in several other moments. So I can understand maybe not having a seatbelt, but I still think that would have been, you know, less necessary. Then again, I can't imagine being on the side of a cliff like this, on the edge of a precipice, it's sideways in a Jeep. Pretty crazy. I don't think you have to get out of the car to disengage the winch, but I do it this way because it's the way I first did it. And I grab it and press circle. It costs a few seconds, it's no big deal. I was thinking too, chase sequences in Uncharted, you know, what could they have done? I always wanted them to do a convoy in the sky, a little bit similar to the plane episode in the third game, but kind of bigger. I have no idea how they would have done it, but I would have liked to have seen Harriers and shit and jets and everything, and somehow interacting with different planes on an aerial convoy. It sounds insane, and it probably would have been insane, but I'm sure they could have made it work, because it's ridiculous, isn't it? Another thing I would have liked to see in this one, perhaps, is hovercrafts. Hovercrafts on ice. Some kind of Arctic tundra, and have a convoy of vehicles on that. And, you know, you could have done a lot of the stuff that they did in this one, where you're skating on the wires and stuff, and you could have been on the skirts of the hovercrafts, bouncing off the ice, and all kinds of different crazy moments. And I think they could have done that really, really well. And it would have been snowy, so it would have been kind of different, because we've done convoys in the desert, we've done convoys now in Africa. You know, there was a convoy in the second one on the train going through, was it Siberia or something? I forget where it was. We've had a whole bunch of different places and big tropical trees and stuff, so it would have been cool to maybe have some kind of Antarctic or Arctic moment of a chase sequence. And I know they would have done a really good job. Because my thinking is this, like, just think now. They've done everything, haven't they, in Uncharted, pretty much. They've had every ridiculous situation you can think of. Nathan Drake has fallen off of almost every single piece of structure that exists in human history. You know, he's broken every single type of era, epoch, history, dynasty, you name it. He's touched an artifact from it. He's fell through a roof that was engineered by the people from that time period. Where do you go next with the insanity once you've, you know, pretty much done everything here? The answer is simple. You've got to go planetary. You have to just increase the gambit that little bit more. I think, can you imagine an Uncharted game that instead of it being a scope of buildings falling down, it was planets coming apart and crazy foreign worlds with, you know, like different coloured skies and water and grass and shit, and having it on a planetary scale of destruction? I have no idea how you would do it, but that's where I would have liked this series to go. And it doesn't have to be, you know, Nathan Drake and everything, but just the idea of the just catastrophic nature of these games and finding crazy artifacts and going to these surreal different worlds. Imagine it with different gravity and different cultures and all kinds of crazy shit. It could have been amazing. Like there's all those crazy asteroid belts and like debris fields in space, and instead of jumping between vehicles you could have been jumping between starships as a moon is exploding or something, you know. The imagination for that kind of shit is limitless, and it's a shame that it's only Call of Duty that's going that direction of space warfare and crazy planetary stuff, because everybody hates Call of Duty apparently, even though it still sells million bajillion copies and everyone's like, oh, it wasn't me that bought it. Well, who fucking did? But this is the firefight, so immediately if you run forward, 2 guys will abseil down, 2 China Lakes will knock their armor off and potentially kill them. If they're still alive, hit them with the 3rd. I then run back over here, pop on my good old gold magnum, even though it's technically not gold, you know what I mean. And then you'll see that there's a bunch of random flunkies who are going to turn up. So I put a magnum round in him, put him down. Sully here and Sam are going to do a great job of distracting. It's going to enable us to be mobile and to get on top of things. Sully takes out that dude. There's a couple people on balconies at the moment, all jumping around. That was a grenade. So there is a China Lake dude at the top of this. He's going to give us a refill. Make your shots count. Stay mobile. We haven't even been shot yet. This is going great. Anybody else? So there's a dude just there. There he is. That is a heavy up there. Taking a heavy with a grenade launcher too. So China Lake to try and put him down. He doesn't die. Second China Lake gets him. Spawn kill those 2 guys just there. Can we do this? Yes, we can. And then there's just 2 heavies now. We've got 4 grenades for them. So just make sure that you get the grenades at their feet, because if you don't, they will survive, and if they survive, it's real bad news. So there goes that guy. Over here is going to be a shotgun dropped by the guy who was rushing me. So pick up the shotgun if you're low on bullets, and then there's only 1 more heavy to go now. So try and be a little bit less overzealous with the grenade, and then you won't have to do too much more damage to this guy. That's a much better throw, because he walks into it, and then I execute him with the shotgun. And that's the end of the fight, I think. There you go. How clean was that? That's a pretty clean fight considering how many dudes there was. And it's all because we took that grenade launcher and that magnum, and it enabled us to get rid of everybody. So now, this room is going to have another China Lake up on that balcony where that big guy was to refill your grenades, and it might even have another one of the magnums. So we might be able to get the guns back we just used to use in another situation, which is awesome. If we can't, we'll just have to make do with something else. But definitely get the refill on the grenades, because I cannot tell you just how important those China Lakes are for situations just like that.
What are you doing?
And there's a shootout coming up later on in New Devon, where you're in a room which is essentially an extension of a room like this. It's a big room with multiple areas of egress, and there's dudes everywhere. And my strategy that I used on my first playthrough, I couldn't get it to work because there was too many random variables when it came to recording the guide. So I ended up finding a different spot, and the spot I end up finding enables me to use the China Lake to spawn kill the grenade launcher guy when he drops down, because he drops down in the same spot every time, and in this way you don't have to contest with too many heavies getting too close, and you can just thin out all the random soldiers that are just a pain in the ass. But it's a super good spot, and having good equipment really comes in handy there. But examine the map, and that's the end of the mission. So thank you very much for watching, and you take care now.